James Gunn's Superman is such an important movie for DC and for the superhero genre as a whole. It technically isn't the first media that takes place in the rebooted DCU, but it is effectively the beginning, and a lot rides on it. But it isn't just about the future, it's also about honoring the past. In fact, the movie's original title was Superman Legacy, and that's what this video is all about. Celebrating the legacy by looking back, recapping, and reliving every Superman to ever grace the silver screen before this new era begins. But first, let me tell you about a superhero in my life. As a content creator juggling many projects at once, I'm always looking for ways to improve my workflow and setup. Something that's helped a lot is Opera Browser. I like to multitask and I like to have YouTube videos playing in the background. One nice thing with Opera is to do that, you don't need a separate window open. With video pop-out, you can just detach and move the video even outside the browser window. Same with music. I'm used to listening on my phone, so while I'm at my computer, there'd always be an endless battle between my phone and laptop over connectivity to my headphones. Not anymore, because now I use Opera's built-in music player. You can connect it to 7 different streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and more. The player is detachable, so you can move it anywhere, even outside the browser, just like with videos. And it automatically pauses if I start a video. What about productivity? One of my favorite features for that is split screen. For example, when I'm hosting a live stream and need to pull up some notes or something I want to reference, no more need to fiddle with multiple windows. I just drag this tab to one side or the other and easily create a split screen. Speaking of tabs, let's say I have a bunch of them open. Happens to me all the time, and I want to get organized. I can group tabs like this, or just use Aria, Opera's free built-in AI tool. You press Command/ or Control/ to access the command line, and I can literally just ask it to group all my wiki tabs, for example. And like that, it's done. Then I can expand and collapse these tab islands as needed. Aria can also do so much more, like summarize pages for me while I'm researching for an upcoming video. I can also ask it anything, even questions about an image I paste or upload, like when I need to identify the location of a scene from a movie. I'm a big fan of Opera, I recommend it. Check out my link in the description to try it out for yourself. Now, on to the recaps. Like so many Superman tales, this one begins on Krypton, a planet home to a civilization thousands of years ahead of Earth's. A planet doomed. Jor-El, scientist and member of the High Council, warns the others, but is only met with skepticism. Krypton is simply shifting its orbit, but he knows the truth. The planet will explode in the next 30 days. There's little he can do. If he or his wife speak out, they would be charged with spreading fear and panic. They'd risk imprisonment in the Phantom Zone. That's where General Zod and his co-conspirators Non and Ursa were sent, after he attempted to overthrow Krypton to promote himself from the planet's defender to its ruler. Jor-El himself played a significant role in prosecuting the would-be usurpers. Though with Krypton's end around the corner, the victory is moot. All that's left for him and Laura is to protect their son, Kal-El. Before the planet dies, they put him in a craft and set a course for Earth, a planet whose atmosphere can sustain him. He will even look like one of them, the humans. He won't be one of them. He might even feel alone and isolated, but he will live. And more, his dense molecular structure will make him strong. He'll defy their gravity. He'll be fast and virtually invulnerable. Before long, Krypton is lost, and Kal-El begins a trek across the stars. His only company is the crystals, the ones his parents embedded with the total accumulation of all literature and scientific fact from dozens of other worlds spanning the 28 known galaxies. 3 years later, in Earth's 1951, the journey ends. On that day, in a field in Smallville, Kansas, Jonathan and Martha Kent, who for years have prayed for a child, are finally delivered one. They find him in a crater, a strange sight. And then a stranger one, the toddler lifting their truck over his head. Jonathan's first inclination is to find the boy's parents, but the strange thing behind him, the craft he landed in, makes it obvious. If the boy has parents, they aren't from around here. Jonathan and Martha name the boy Clark and raise him as their own. Over the years, they keep his powers hidden to avoid attention from the wrong people. And sometimes it's tempting, like when Brad picks on him, or when there's an opportunity to impress Lana Lang, to show off. But Clark knows he can't do that. When it all becomes too frustrating, Jonathan admits his thinking has changed. They've always kept his abilities hidden out of fear. Now he sees that Clark must have been sent here for a reason. He will use those powers one day for a purpose, something grander than showing off or scoring touchdowns. One thing he can't do with those powers is save his father from the heart attack, the one that comes just after their talk. Clark and Martha bury him at Smallville Cemetery. Soon, at age 18, Clark's life changes again. A glowing green crystal taken from his ship calls to him. That's when he knows it's time to say goodbye to Martha and to Smallville. The crystal leads him on a journey to the Arctic, where it builds him a fortress in the traditional crystalline Kryptonian architecture. Inside, he meets a ghost, a hologram of his father from Krypton, Jor-El, stored in the crystals, a recording that not only speaks but answers questions too. He welcomes his son to this fortress of solitude and teaches him all he must know about himself, his real name of Kal-El, how his powers far exceed those of mortal men. In fact, Kal-El still has powers he himself is yet to discover. How it is forbidden to interfere with human history. Rather, he should allow his leadership to stir others. He also teaches him about the world, science, philosophy, and everything else. The lessons go on for 12 years. Upon graduation, he prepares to rejoin human civilization, clad in a red cape and blue uniform that proudly displays his family crest, the House of El, what many on Earth would recognize as the symbol for the letter S. To blend in, he returns to his childhood disguise of Clark Kent. He wears glasses and adopts a demeanor that's mild-mannered, to put it nicely, or meek and clumsy, to put it less nicely, the opposite of his true self. He takes a job in the Big Apricot, Metropolis, as a reporter for the Daily Planet, working alongside the more experienced Lois Lane and young photographer Jimmy Olsen. He is quickly taken with Lois's self-assured manner and wry sense of humor, and she observes him, how he arranges for half his pay to be sent home to his mother every week, and how he uses words like swell. In summary, a clumsy, gentle Boy Scout. After Clark's debut in Metropolis, it's soon time for his other half to appear. When the Daily Planet chopper threatens to crash with Lois on it, Kal-El quickly dons the red and blue before catching her and it.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me! Who's got you?
The flying hero does more good after that, stopping crimes, catching bad guys, saving cats out of trees, and even taking the place of a lost engine after lightning strikes a plane. Everyone in Metropolis hears about it. Everyone under Metropolis, too, namely Lex Luthor, the wealthy industrialist who lives underground in an abandoned railroad station repurposed as his lair. The timing couldn't be worse. Luthor is days away from committing the crime of the century, and now he has a superpowered do-gooder to worry about, who will certainly try to stop him. So he begins plotting, and so does Daily Planet editor Perry White. Word is out on the flying man, and he wants the scoop. Lucky for Lois, that man decides the story is hers. He leaves her a note promising to stop by her place tonight. At 8 o'clock, he arrives for the interview. She asks him the basics like, are you married? Do you have a girlfriend? No and no, but you'd be the first to know. Some not-so-basics like, is it true you can see through anything? Yes, except lead. Prove it.
What color underwear am I wearing?
Pink. Pink.
He tells her about Krypton. She asks if he likes pink. And she asks why he's here. There must be a reason.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Finally, they drop the charade. They put away the notebook and pen, and he takes her flying above Metropolis, where she recites a silent poem on her growing feelings for the flying man.
Here I am, like a kid out of school, holding hands with a god. I'm a fool.
And after he leaves her,
What a Superman. Superman.
after that, she has a date with Clark Kent, but her mind is clearly elsewhere.
That's Clark, nice.
I spent the night with Superman. That's the name of the article she writes that'll become famous. And Lex Luthor reads that article. His henchwoman calls it too good to be true. I mean, he's 6'4", black hair, blue eyes, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and tells the truth. Luthor throws her a few choice words.
Mr. Schmucker, some people can read War and Peace and come away thinking it's a simple adventure story. Others can read the ingredients on a chewing gum wrapper and unlock the secrets of the universe.
More importantly, if Krypton really exploded, then it's possible fragments of it reached Earth. Researching meteorites from that time, sure enough, Luthor finds that one landed in Addis Ababa. So what? Well, the level of specific radioactivity would be so high on that meteorite, it would be lethal to anyone from the planet Krypton. In other words, Luthor has found Superman's kryptonite, or his weakness, which happens to be kryptonite. Soon it's time, the crime of the century. First, Luthor steals that meteorite from a museum in Addis Ababa. Then he sabotages a U.S. military test involving 2 nuclear missiles, and points them at 2 specific targets. Finally, it's time. He broadcasts a message at a particular frequency, one no human can hear, but superhumans are another story. It's an invitation to his lair and a threat. Come, or I kill half the population of Metropolis. It turns out to be an empty threat, but it works. Superman does arrive. Cue Luthor's villain monologue. His plan? Drop a 500-megaton bomb at just the right point on the San Andreas Fault to drop the west coast into the sea, which would turn the 100 miles of desert he recently purchased into the new coast. Worthless desert becomes valuable real estate, and Luthor becomes even richer than he is now, and millions of innocent people die. The missiles are already in the air, missiles plural, because one is heading to the fault, but another is heading to Hackensack, New Jersey. No way Superman can stop both. Maybe he can't stop either, because Luthor has that secret weapon, a piece of Krypton that weakens him. Luthor puts it around Superman's neck and tosses him in the pool. The thing is, Miss Teschmacher's mother lives in Hackensack, and she knows the only way to save her now is to let Superman go. So she does, but only after he promises to stop that missile first, and he does stop it. As for the other one, it's doing exactly as Luthor intended. It hit the fault, and the continent is already cracking open. Bad news for Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, who were sent to investigate why Luthor was buying up a bunch of seemingly worthless land. But it's not too late. No one is dead yet. First, Superman flies into the fault and pushes the cracked Earth back in place. Next, he works on the fallout of the earthquakes that came after the bomb. He catches a school bus off the Golden Gate Bridge, replaces train tracks to prevent a derailment, catches Jimmy on the breaking Hoover Dam, then builds a new dam. Finally, he finds Lois's car buried in the rocks and dirt. Too late. He unburies a lifeless body. It's like his father 12 years ago. All this power, and yet, sometimes it isn't enough to save the ones he loves. But maybe this time is different. He thinks of the words of his father, Jor-El, forbidding him to interfere in human history. And he thinks of the words of his father, Jonathan Kent, who told his son that he is here for a reason. That's the voice he listens to today, as he flies fast fast enough to reverse the course of history, fast enough for a second chance. And now, as though she never died at all, Lois lives. The day is saved. Now all that remains is justice. Superman flies Luthor and his henchman Otis to prison himself. But it's not long before other criminals follow in their wake, like the terrorists who seized the Eiffel Tower and threatened the city with a hydrogen bomb. Of course, Lois Lane is on the scene, and of course, Superman is quickly there to rescue her and toss that bomb into outer space. A grave miscalculation. Before Krypton's destruction, Jor-El had condemned 3 rebel elements to the Phantom Zone, an extra-dimensional prison created by Kryptonian scientists. There are few ways to crack that prison. One is a nuclear explosion in space. When that hydrogen bomb from Paris blows, General Zod, Ursa, and Nan are freed. Their first stop, the moon, where they kill some astronauts for little reason other than their own amusement or to test their strength, which turns out to be quite impressive. It seems the closer they come to an atmosphere with only one sun, a yellow sun, the more their molecular density gives them unlimited power. General Zod has always wanted a planet to rule, and now finally the universe has given him one. Not only has he been freed and granted limitless power, but right before him is a planet ripe for the taking. Earth, where a certain Kal-El or Clark Kent isn't having as much luck. While Zod escapes the Phantom Zone, Clark finds himself firmly trapped in the Friend Zone. Even while he and Lois pose as newlyweds to expose a honeymoon racket in Niagara Falls, she just can't think of him as anything more than that, a harmless and purely platonic friend, good old Clark Kent. It's also hard to compete with her crush, Superman, though Lois is starting to get suspicious because she has eyes. Maybe Clark and Superman are the same person. When a kid nearly falls off the Niagara Falls, Superman is there to catch him, and like always, Clark just happened to miss it. Why does he always disappear when Superman is around? And why does he look exactly like him when his glasses are off? Lois shares her suspicions, and Clark denies it. But she's so certain of her hunch, she's willing to risk her life to prove it. She jumps over the fence into the rough waters below, knowing Clark would never let her die to cover up his identity. She doesn't know he has ways to save her without revealing his identity, like his heat vision. Clark quietly shoots lasers out of his eyes to cut a branch, which Lois uses to save herself. Then later that night, he stumbles into a fire and comes out unharmed, making it impossible to deny he really is Superman. Now that the truth is laid bare, Lois shares a truth of her own. She's in love with him. Kal-El couldn't be happier, and now that she knows some of it, he decides to let her in on the rest. He even brings her to the Fortress of Solitude, where the two share a romantic dinner, no more pretending between them. It's true love. True enough, Kal-El is willing to sacrifice everything for it. While Lois goes to change into something more comfortable, he speaks to the memory of his mother in the crystals. She warns him that to live with a mortal like Lois Lane, he must be immortal. He must step into the molecule chamber, which has harnessed the rays of the red sun of Krypton. Once exposed to those rays, all his great powers on Earth will disappear forever. He will be an ordinary man. Is he sure he's willing to give all that up? Is his love really that great? Yes. Lois watches it all happen from the corner. She's heard the entire thing and knows what he's sacrificing as he's bathed in the harsh red light. As it penetrates his skin and flesh down to the bones, he walks out of that chamber an ordinary man. The fortress, too, is robbed of power, as the crystal control panel is destroyed. Now it is simply an empty vessel, and he immortal. If there were any doubt, it's gone at the diner when he takes her out for his first dinner as a man. A bully tries to steal her away, and Clark stands up to him. That's how he ends up on the ground, treated to the sight of something he's never seen before.
Clark?
Blood. It's my blood.
When someone turns on the TV, Kal-El realizes the true extent of his sacrifice. he hasn't just forsaken his powers, he's forsaken Earth itself, because during Superman's brief honeymoon, General Zod, Ursa, and Nan have been busy. They began their journey in a small town in Houston, where their meddling attracted the attention of cops and military, all of whom only served as further evidence of their powers. Bullets, bombs, and everything else prove just as useless against them as they are against Superman. Now they've made their way to the White House, where the U.S. president has been forced to announce the abdication of authority to the all-powerful General Zod, though the president also takes the opportunity to call for help from the only one who may be able to help.
Superman, can you hear me? Superman, where?
Who is this Superman?
The bleeding, mortal Clark watches it all. What has he done? And what can he do now as one mortal against 3 Kryptonians powered by Earth's yellow sun? All he can do is return to the fortress and hope. The journey is long without the ability of flight, but he does find his way back. The place is dark and empty. He calls out to his mother and father. There is no reply, except that green crystal which called to him 12 years ago. He had shown it to Lois, and she dropped it. It was not in the control panel when it was destroyed. Instead, it still lay in the same spot, and now it glows. Perhaps there is still some power to be found here. In D.C., General Zod rules and awaits the arrival of the supposed Superman, but instead it's another villain who arrives. Lex Luthor. He escaped from prison not long ago with Miss Teschmacher's help. Not only that, he's also built a machine that can track the unique alpha wave produced by Superman. Following them, he had found the Fortress of Solitude and accessed the control panel before it was destroyed by Kal-El's depowering. Exploring the Kryptonian archival crystals, he learned about General Zod, Ursa, and Nan, 3 villains who share his contempt for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In them, he saw kindred spirits and the opportunity to form an alliance with 3 gods. At the White House, he bargains with the knowledge he gained at the fortress. First, he reveals to the Kryptonians the true identity of Superman. He is the son of Jor-El. That gets their attention. Jor-El was their jailer, and with him dead, revenge was out of reach. But if he had a son, and now that son is here, that changes things. Luthor offers to bring them to this son of Jor-El. In exchange, he asks for one thing.
My needs are small. As it turns out, I have this affinity for beachfront property.
What do you want?
Australia.
He doesn't bring them to Superman, but instead the next best thing, the Daily Planet, where they find Lois Lane. Luthor doesn't know their connection exactly, but he knows they're close, and he knows that if they take Lois, he will be along. Luthor is right. Just before they start slaughtering the lives they deem worthless, Superman does arrive. Kal-El, son of Jor-El, with his powers fully restored. But still, the fight against 3 Kryptonians is not a fair fight. Not only is it 1 against 3, but they quickly learn his weakness.
I've discovered his weakness. He actually cares for these Earth people.
They attack civilians. Superman keeps up as best he can, but while he's focused on protecting the people, it's impossible to also fight the villains at full strength. When they throw a bus at him, Superman seems down for the count. That's when the people take up arms instead. Superman fought for them. Now they will fight for him. But all it takes is for Zod to let out his breath, and the civilians fly like a hurricane has struck. Superman gets back up and leaves. The citizens of Metropolis can't believe it. Their hero couldn't win the fight, so instead he fled. But of course that isn't true. Instead, Superman left knowing they would follow him. Once he's gone, Luthor admits he knows his address, the Fortress of Solitude. Zod and his co-conspirators take him for directions and Lois as leverage. Then they head north. Once inside the fortress, they no longer have a use for Luthor, so Zod orders him killed. That's when Luthor switches to Superman's side, and Superman quietly whispers, "Try to get them all into this molecule chamber. It takes away their powers." And Luthor betrays him, quickly telling Zod about the chamber and what it does. So Zod, with Lois hostage, orders Superman himself to enter the chamber. Then it's time.
Lex Luthor, ruler of Australia, activate the machine.
The machine is activated, and after the red light fades, Superman steps out of the chamber. He kneels before Zod. He takes his hand, and he crushes it. All part of the plan. Superman switched the machine, so while he was safe in the chamber, Zod, Ursa, and Nan were bathed in the rays of Krypton's red sun. Now they have become mortal. Earth is saved. A happy ending. Or at least it should be. There's just one problem. Lois Lane and Clark Kent have learned what happens when they are together. The world is endangered. No matter how much Lois needs Clark or Clark needs Lois, fact is, the world needs Superman. Lois can hardly accept it, and she doesn't have to, because Superman unveils another power, a kiss that makes you forget. As their lips part, she forgets her time with Superman. She only remembers him as the hero she has a crush on, and Clark as her bumbling but kind coworker. Kal-El, on the other hand, remembers it all. It's not all bad, though. At least he returns to that diner and teaches a lesson to that jerk who picked on him. Speaking of jerks who picked on Clark Kent, soon it's time for his high school reunion. Mr. White even gives him permission to go and cover it as a story, investigating how much a small town can change in 15 years. It'll be his first time back in Smallville since his mother passed. Olsen will join him on the trip as photographer, while Lois Lane, well, it's time for a much-needed vacation in the Caribbean. On the ride to Smallville, their bus is stopped thanks to a fire at the chemical plant. Superman rescues workers, but inside finds out things are dire because they have a bunch of concentrated beltric acid. Harmless at normal temperatures, but if heated, it'll turn volatile. You'll get a great cloud of smoke that will eat through anything. But the firemen are running low on water, and the best source would be Lake Kamuga, 5 miles away. It's easy for Superman to fly over there, but how do you carry the water back? That's easy too. Freeze breath turns the water into ice. Superman carries it back and rains water on the fire. Back in Smallville, Superman becomes Clark Kent and finds his old crush, Lana Lang. For her, Clark is a sight for sore eyes, because things have been tough. She and Donald split up, so she raises Ricky on her own. Money is tight. Last winter, she even had to pawn her diamond ring to cover the fuel bills. Sometimes she wonders the point of staying in Smallville. She might even be a tad jealous of Clark, who found a way to the big apricot, Metropolis. But lucky for her, Clark sticks around for a couple of days. They spend time together. Her son Ricky gets along with Clark and with Superman, who he meets when he almost gets run over by a threshing machine until the caped hero saves him. Soon it's that time. All good things come to an end. Clark heads back to Metropolis, and as always, another job for Superman. This time it's thanks to another crooked industrialist, not Lex Luthor, but Websco's CEO, Ross Webster. He'd like to corner the coffee market. Under different company names, he already controls prices in most of the world. There's just one country that won't play ball: Colombia. So he's decided to destroy every last coffee crop they have down to the last bean. How? By controlling the weather. How do you control the weather? Obviously, by hacking a weather satellite, so instead of monitoring the weather, it controls the weather. And how do you do that? That's where Gus Gorman comes in. He was recently hired by Websco for his near-superhuman computer abilities, but was disappointed by the meager pay, so he concocted a scheme. When the payroll computers calculate tax, Social Security, etc., it rounds the results down to the nearest penny. What happens to the leftover fractions? Well, Gorman decided he'll take them. But Gorman's program ended up siphoning more than expected, nearly $86,000. The amount did not go unnoticed by Webster, but who stole it? That's when he spots Gorman pulling up in a Ferrari 308 GTS. What to do now? He could have had him arrested, or blackmail. He agreed not to report Gorman's misdeed, and in exchange, Gorman would lend his computer talents. So he had Gorman hack the satellite, and now Columbia is attacked by an unnatural storm. Until Superman shows up. He dries the crops with heat vision and extinguishes the tornado by flying through it. So it's back to the drawing board for Webster. Obviously, any more schemes will be stopped by Superman, so the hero needs to be stopped. But to do that, they need kryptonite. Time for more hacking. Gorman uses that weather satellite to locate fragments of Krypton, analyzes the material, and sends a recipe to the lab so they can synthesize their own. Except one of the ingredients was unknown, so Gorman suggested they use tar. Then, at an event in Superman's honor in Smallville, Gorman, in the guise of a government official, hands Superman a gift, that synthesized kryptonite, which appears to have no effect. It seems that unknown ingredient was fairly crucial after all. It isn't until later the consequences are felt. The fake space rock didn't kill Superman. Instead, it turned him bad. Suddenly, he's less enthusiastic about saving the day. When a truck almost drives off a bridge, he doesn't rush out to save them. They can wait. For now, he'd prefer the company of a good-looking girl. Then, hijinks. He fixes the Leaning Tower of Pisa, really pissing off the guy selling replicas at his merch stand. He blows out the Olympic torch. With the do-gooder no longer doing good, Webster knows now he can try for another scheme. This time, he decides to corner the oil market. With Gorman's help, he shuts down every oil pump in America and sends orders for every tanker to sail to a spot in the Atlantic and just sit there uselessly. And Superman falls into degeneracy, fornication, inebriation. Soon the world witnesses his public intoxication, and most give up on him. Except Ricky. He does his best to remind the hero there is still good in him.
Maybe it's just sick. Superman, please get better. Superman, you're just in a slump. You'll be great again.
The boy's words get through to him, at least through to part of him, a part that breaks off from the other half. At the garbage dump, Superman splits in two, one half good, the other evil. After a brutal brawl involving a trash compactor and industrial shredder, good wins. Superman, now back to his old self, finds the evildoers at the Grand Canyon, where a secret weapon awaits. In exchange for Webster's latest oil scheme, Gorman wanted something in return. A new supercomputer designed by him, more powerful than any the world has ever seen. And now, Webster has had it built. A machine powerful enough to defend itself by learning the weakness of any who attack. Even Superman, proven when the hero is brought to his knees by a beam of kryptonite, not the kind that turns him into a jerk, the kind that kills him. It's about that time Gorman has had enough. All he ever wanted was a little money to get by. He has no interest in helping an evil rich man get even richer, and he definitely has no interest in killing Superman. He sabotages the machine, giving Superman a chance to flee? Of course he isn't running away, he's got some plan up his sleeve. But in the meantime, Webster, his co-conspirator and sister Vera, and Lorelei all struggle against the machine. It even turns Vera into a robot herself to fight alongside the computer. Then Superman returns with a vial. The computer lets it through because it's harmless. Except it's only harmless for now. Superman gets it inside, and once heated, it's like the scientist at the chemical plant warned. It turns volatile, a cloud of smoke that will eat through anything, and that apparently does include supercomputers. With it destroyed, it's off to prison for the evildoers. Except Gorman, Superman decides to give him another chance. And more unfinished business. He finds some coal, squeezes it into a diamond, puts it on a ring, then in the guise of Clark Kent, hands it to Lana as a token of appreciation from Superman to replace the one she had to pawn last winter. And Clark has a gift of his own for her, a ticket out of Smallville, a job at the Daily Planet as Mr. White's new secretary in Metropolis. And when Clark takes her out to lunch and Lois spots that new ring on Lana's finger, Lois might be a tad jealous. Finally, Superman turns the Tower of Pisa back into the Leaning Tower, which really pisses off the merch guy who just got in a bunch of new, non-leaning replicas. Elsewhere, Superman's cousin Kara has even bigger problems. That's right, when Krypton exploded, one city was spared. Argo City, thanks to its location in a pocket dimension, or inner space. Kara's problem? Just for fun, Zoltar helped himself to the Omegahedron, one of the city's two great power sources. He has an affinity for Earth and has been using the device to recreate elements from its environment, things like trees. Now, the device cannot create actual life, but the illusion of it will suffice. When Kara gets her hands on it, she uses it to make a butterfly, which goes on to penetrate the city's barrier, exposing them to the void outside. The breach triggers a vacuum effect that sucks the Omegahedron out of inner space and into outer space. Just like that, the city is doomed, because without that power source, the lights will dim, and so will the very air they breathe. So Kara takes it upon herself to get it back, and follows the thing to Earth, where she dons a costume much like her cousin's, and quickly discovers the powers granted to Kryptonians by the Yellow Sun. As for Superman, radio broadcasts share the news. The President confirms reports that Superman has embarked on a special peace-seeking mission to a galaxy scientists estimate may be several hundred trillion light years from our own, so he will definitely not be appearing in this adventure, other than on a poster in Lois Lane's sister Lucy Lane's dorm room. But fear not, there is one familiar face around, because Lucy Lane happens to be dating a young photographer from Metropolis, Jimmy Olsen. Kara will meet them both because she devises her own Clark Kent-like alter ego, adopting the persona Linda Lee and getting herself registered at the all-girls private school Midvale, where she ends up roommates with Lucy Lane. While she has a grand old time learning the ways of Earth, that Omegahedron finds its way into the hands of a wannabe witch named Selina. She decides to use its power for world domination, but first, she spots a hunk named Ethan and decides to make him hers. She doses him with a love potion, which first dazes him, causing him to wander the streets aimlessly. So she takes remote control of a bulldozer and picks him up, until Linda Lee spots the trouble, turns Supergirl, and rescues the hunk. When he wakes up, he falls in love with the first person he sees. That turns out to be Linda Lee. Now, Supergirl and Linda are both on Selina's bad side, one for rescuing Ethan and the other for stealing his heart. The witch sends a dark force after Linda, but no luck. Supergirl is there to stop it. Later that night, Kara's bracelet detects the Omegahedron nearby, so finally, she goes after it. But first, Ethan would like a word. He's in love with Kara, though he thinks she's Linda because she is, but that's just her alter ego, and she's also Supergirl, though he doesn't know that. All he knows is he wants Linda Lee's hand in marriage. She is moved, but not quite ready to marry him, but she will take that kiss. That's when Selina shows up again and unleashes another torrent of dark magic. Linda quickly turns Supergirl again and takes Ethan to safety on an island, where Selina knocks him out through a remote-controlled coconut. Once he wakes, they kiss, and he can tell Supergirl is Linda. And the fun is over. Selina called in help from her sometimes lover, sometimes punching bag Nigel, who has a great knowledge of evil magic. Through the combined forces of the Omegahedron and his Burundi wand, they teleport Ethan into Selina's clutches. With that, she conjures herself a mountain and castle right in the middle of town. Supergirl comes to the rescue, but Selina is ready for that and curses the hero, sending her into the Phantom Zone, where she finds Zoltar, exiled after losing the Omegahedron. He shares some bad news. There is no way out of here. Unless No, it's too dangerous. Well, you could go through the quantum vortex, though that risks getting swept up into a singularity. They go for it, and Kara makes it through, back to Earth. Zoltar does not. But while she was gone, Selina figured out something interesting. She spotted a bunch of protesters, down with Selina, led by Lucy and Jimmy. They were upset with Selina. She can't just make someone disappear, like their friend Linda, who vanished the day that mountain appeared. And that's when Selina puts the pieces together. Linda is Supergirl. So she took her friends Lucy and Jimmy hostage. Supergirl finds them caged up when she arrives back at the fortress. That is where the final battle is staged. It's black magic against Kryptonian might. Kara is nearly torn apart by the giant beast summoned by Selina. "I can't," she shouts. "You can," the disembodied voice of Zoltar shouts back. With that, she breaks free of the beast, turns into a tornado, and traps Selina in a mirror. She bids Ethan farewell and returns to Argo City with the Omegahedron. With its power, light is restored to the city. Earth, on the other hand, is a different story. Superman returns to find the world in a downward spiral. Nuclear proliferation runs rampant. Peace summits fail. Paranoia grows as nations race to arm themselves. And forbidden from interfering in their history, Kal-El can only watch as humanity marches toward oblivion. But is that right? He isn't so sure after a child writes a letter to Superman asking him to rid the world of nuclear weapons. Tabloids pressure him for an answer. Even the Daily Planet, thanks to a hostile takeover by tabloid tycoon David Warfield, whose daughter Lacey, used to bad boys, takes a liking to the incorruptible Clark Kent. Despite Lois Lane's protectiveness over Clark and warnings he'd never go for a girl like her, Lacey is steadfast, and so is Clark in his inability or unwillingness to return her flirtations. More importantly, with her father and the world's pressure on Superman to answer that question, will you rid the world of nuclear arms, he can no longer dodge it. But it is a question that requires careful consideration. He seeks guidance at the Fortress of Solitude. The memory of his mother, stored on crystals, turns to the wisdom of the Council, who are unanimous in their warnings. Earth is too primitive. Why not simply leave for better, more advanced worlds where war is long forgotten? If you teach the Earth to put its fate in any one man, even yourself, you are teaching them to be betrayed. Betrayed. Superman even seeks counsel from Lois Lane, not as Clark Kent, but as Superman, after once again revealing his identity. Though it seems all her memories of their time have rushed back, she even remembers his true name, Kal-El. She assures him, "You'll do the right thing, no matter what. You always have." Then he reminds her why they can never be together. Never set one of them above the rest. Love all humanity instead. After that, he makes her forget all over again. Finally, Superman visits the UN and addresses the world with an important announcement. He is no longer a visitor here, but a true citizen of Earth. This place is his home too now, and he's decided that we cannot live in fear, and he cannot stand idly by and watch us stumble into the madness of possible nuclear destruction. Superman has decided that he will rid the planet of all nuclear weapons. The world cheers on as he gathers all nuclear arms and tosses them into the sun. But peace isn't good for everyone. The villains of the world who deal in the arms trade, for them, war means profit, and there is one man on Earth who dares stand against Superman in his quest for peace, a man named Lex Luthor. His nephew Lenny recently broke him out of prison. Now he makes a deal with those villains. For a healthy commission, he'll kill Superman, and this isn't another kryptonite scheme. This plan will use the latest marvels of science. First, he needs some Superman DNA. He finds it at a museum where the hero donated a single strand of hair, which easily suspends a 1,000-pound load, proving just how powerful he really is. Luthor helps himself to that hair, then grows from the Kryptonian's genetic material some protoplasm. He sneaks that protoplasm onto one of the nuclear missiles before Superman throws it into the sun. When that genetic stew absorbs the sun's incredible radiation, Lex Luthor's nuclear man is born. His first battle with Superman is almost welcome because it interrupts a very awkward double date. Clark and Lacey, Superman and Lois, trying to be two men in the same place at the same time was pushing the hero to his limits, until Luthor called to Superman on his special frequency that only the Kryptonian can hear. The fight does not go well for Superman. The nuclear man poisons him with radiation sickness, and for the first time, Kal-El knows what it is to be ill. Lois, Lacey, and the others worry when Clark doesn't show up to work, and the world worries when all they find of Superman is his cape. People are even saying he's dead. Lois finds Clark at his apartment, and as though she still remembers who he really is, she tells him what she would tell Superman if she could, how she'll always cherish their time together, how he made her happy for what little time they had. She loves him, she'll always love him, and whatever happens to the world, she knows that he is doing his best to make sure it's good for all of us. She hands Clark back Superman's cape before leaving. Lois's words remind Kal-El that he cannot wither and die, leaving Earth to Luthor and his nuclear man. So he retrieves the Kryptonian energy module from his ship. A recording of his mother had warned him the module is all that remains of Krypton. Once removed, the ship will grow cold and silent. Kal-El will finally be alone. Frail and facing death, he has no choice but to do it. Kal-El absorbs the last energy of Krypton and returns from the brink. Now it's time for another bout with the Nuclear Man, a battle so fierce it takes them to the moon, where Superman has an idea. This villain was forged in the sun, and he is powered by it. By pushing the moon into an impromptu eclipse, he robs the Nuclear Man of his power, and it's just in time. Back on Earth, Lacey was finally standing up to her father for the Daily Planet's integrity. Moved by Clark Kent's commitment to truth, she no longer approves of this tabloid sensationalism. Their argument was interrupted by the Nuclear Man when Lacey caught his eye. He kidnapped her, but mid-flight to space, that eclipse stopped him cold. Now Superman rescues Lacey and tosses him into the core of a nuclear plant. In Metropolis, more good news. Perry White got a loan, large enough to push out Warfield and take back the Daily Planet's independence. Finally, Superman takes Lenny to Boys Town, the home for wayward boys, and Luthor to prison. Before flying off, Superman promises Luthor the world will not be vaporized.
It's as it always was, on the brink, with good fighting evil. See you in 20.
But what if things went differently? What if, after defeating Zod, no evil supercomputer, no Supergirl, no Nuclear Man? What if instead, Superman left? This is that story. 5 years ago, astronomers discovered the distant remains of Krypton, and Superman had to see it for himself. All he found was a floating graveyard, and by the time he returns to Earth, so much has changed. As Clark Kent, he learns that Lois Lane is a mother to a boy named Jason and engaged to Perry White's nephew Richard. Just don't ask when they're finally tying the knot. Does she still love Superman, the fiancé, and her Pulitzer Prize-winning article, Why the World Doesn't Need Superman, gives Clark plenty of reason to doubt it, though Jimmy Olsen offers a kernel of hope.
If you ask me, she's still in love with you-know-who.
But of everything that's changed these last 5 years, maybe worst of all is that Lex Luthor is out of prison, and it's all Superman's fault. The hero was called as a witness, but was nowhere to be found. Now Luthor is free, and even richer than before, after taking advantage of a widow seeking love. Once she herself passes, Luthor takes the mansion, the yacht, and more, even the dogs. Or a dog after one Let's just say Luther left the house unattended and one of those dogs found a creative way to feed herself in the meantime. One of Luther's first stops as a free man is a place he visited 5 years ago, Superman's Fortress of Solitude. There he speaks to the hologram of Jor-El and learns about the power of Krypton's crystals, how technology there was based on manipulating the growth of those crystals, cities, vehicles, weapons, an entire continent. All grown. Luther helps himself to a few of those crystals and starts to dream up a new villainous scheme. Soon he finds out it won't be as easy as he thought, because soon he and the world find out Superman is back. They first met the hero when he caught Lois Lane and a helicopter, and they reunite much the same way, except this time it isn't a helicopter. It's a Boeing 777 being used as part of an experimental technology to save fuel and money by launching a space shuttle off the back of a jet. Lane and other journalists are carried aboard that jet, but it just so happens that during the launch, Luther is testing a small fragment of Kryptonian crystal. Submerging a tiny piece in water grows a small island in a train set and knocks out power in the surrounding area, including the sky. The power failure prevents the shuttle from decoupling, meaning Lois and the others are about to get a trip into space, for which a Boeing 777 is not equipped. Enter Superman. Heat vision separates the shuttle from the jet, and then it's up to him to slow down the descent of that jet, without pulverizing everyone on board. Of course, he gets it done and lands them safely in a baseball stadium.
I hope this experience hasn't put any of you off flying. Statistically speaking, it's still the safest way to travel.
And outside, the crowd gives him a hero's welcome. All except the one who matters most to that hero, Lois Lane. She's less than thrilled with Superman's return. After all, he left her without so much as a goodbye. Clark awkwardly defends Superman without letting slip he's really defending himself.
Well, maybe it was hard to say goodbye because he had to go and wanted to say goodbye, but maybe it was too difficult for him.
Difficult? What's so difficult about it? Goodbye. It's easy. What's so hard about saying goodbye?
Is it really too late for him? Kal-El has to know. X-ray vision and super hearing grant him a peek at her home, just as Richard is asking her about the article she wrote. Not Why the World Doesn't Need Superman, the one she wrote years ago. I spent the night with Superman. He asks if she was in love with him. After some hesitation, the answer: no. At that, Superman flies into the sky and thinks of some words from his father, Jor-El, from their many lessons. Even though you've been raised as a human being, you are not one of them. And he remembers what he said about humanity's capacity for good, how they can be a great people if Kal-El shows them the light. From the stars, he listens. To screams, cries, alarms. He can't be everywhere at once, but he saves as many people as he can and reminds evildoers that he's bulletproof. Meanwhile, Luther helps himself to a meteorite from the Metropolis Museum of Natural History, one that landed in Addis Ababa after drifting from the remains of Krypton. After all of Superman's recent heroics, unfortunately, Olsen's photos aren't quite to Mr. Perry White's liking.
What do you got, Olsen?
Those in the sky, Chief.
It's a bird.
It's a plane.
No, look, it's... You wanted to see me?
With Superman back, White insists on Lois covering him, something she has no interest in. She'd rather focus on the massive blackout, the one that almost took down her jet. So Richard offers to take the Superman story while she works with Clark on the blackout. When she heads to the roof for a smoke, Superman finally pays her a visit. He tells her where he went 5 years ago and why, and he takes her for a flight, just like her first night with Superman when she fell in love. In the sky, where for her it's silent, he tells her what he hears.
I hear everything. You wrote that the world doesn't need a savior, but every day I hear people crying for one.
He apologizes for the way he left her 5 years ago and returns her to the roof. As though by muscle memory, she moves to kiss him until she remembers Richard. Superman understands. He wishes her a good night and flies off. The next day, Lois continues investigating the blackout and pinpoints where it began. Before heading off to the Pulitzer Prize ceremony, she picks up Jason and makes a pit stop at the blackout's origin point. It turns out to be a yacht, and that yacht belongs to a supervillain, Lex Luthor, and Luthor helps himself to the 2 hostages that have walked into his lair before commencing his villain monologue. It's an update on an old plan, another real estate scheme, only this time, instead of sinking half of California to increase the value of a desert, he plans on sinking the entire continent while growing a new one. Then he'll rule over a new Kryptonian world here on Earth, while the rest of the planet begs and eventually pays a large sum for access to his continent and advanced alien technology. It's a plan even Superman is powerless to stop, because Luthor has kryptonite. He shows off the radioactive material and notices something strange. Jason seems averse to it.
Who is that boy's father?
Richard.
Are you sure?
While Luthor gets to work, the boy proves his true heritage by throwing a piano at one of their captors before he can hurt Lois. And before that, Lois was able to sneak a fax to the Daily Planet with their coordinates. Richard heads there by seaplane, and Superman by defying gravity. At the coordinates, he finds a storm and something brewing under the waves, Luthor's new continent, beginning to take form. As it rises off the coast of Metropolis, the city is rocked by earthquakes. Superman does his best to hold the city together, blowing out fires, catching people, debris, even the Daily Planet globe, like Atlas holding up the heavens. Meanwhile, Richard gets to the yacht to find Lois and Jason, just before the island grows through that yacht, breaking it in half. The family is nearly drowned until Superman arrives. He gets them on the seaplane and points them in the right direction. Then he lands on Luthor's new Krypton, unaware of the island's true nature. Luthor learned that crystals inherit the traits of the minerals around them, so when Luthor planted the crystal that built this island, he included a secret ingredient. On this island, Superman is mortal. Luthor and his men beat him down, then leave him for dead with a kryptonite dagger in his side. This might have been where he died, except Lois woke from unconsciousness and told Richard to go back. She knew the island was made with kryptonite. Now they find Superman and save him from drowning. On the plane, Lois pulls a shard of kryptonite out of Superman's side, and they get far enough from the island, his powers return. And so does Superman, back to the island that nearly killed him. This time, he uses heat vision to melt a chunk of ocean floor and get beneath the island. Then he pushes. He flies, carrying the entire structure with him. He fights gravity, and the island fights back. Dirt and rock give way, slowly exposing more of the kryptonite embedded in the crystal structure. It poisons him and saps his strength. It's the hardest thing he's ever done, but he does it. He keeps pushing until he's miles above Earth, and then with the last bit of strength left, he hurls New Krypton into space. And he didn't leave anything for the way back. Superman falls to Earth like a meteorite. They find him unconscious in a crater with a barely beating heart. That heart tests the limits of Metropolis General's defibrillator, but they do save him, though it'll be some time before he wakes up. Lois visits him at the hospital. Though he's in a coma, she's heard sometimes people can still hear, so she whispers in his ear something she has to tell him, and she kisses him. As for Lex, he and his henchwoman Kitty have been stranded on a desert island. As for his Kryptonian crystals, they are floating through space on New Krypton. Kitty had finally had enough of Luthor's evil, so she knocked those crystals off his chopper before they escaped. Finally, once Superman wakes up, he pays a visit to Lois Lane's home. First, he stops by Jason's room. Though the boy is asleep, Kal-El shares some words of wisdom with his son, the same ones Jor-El once shared with him. How he will be different, maybe feel like an outcast, but he will never be alone. Outside, he thanks Lois.
Will we see you?
I'm always around.
He flies over the Earth, a planet he has no intent on leaving again soon, a planet he will protect. At least, he'll do his best, which it turns out isn't always enough. It's a big universe out there, and an even bigger multiverse. This Superman lives on Earth 96, but there are many others, many protected by heroes, Supermen, Supergirls, Batman, and Green Arrows. Others too. But there are just as many villains, maybe more. One day, one villain in particular threatens the multiverse and every Earth in it. This story begins at the beginning of time, when the single black infinitude found release and the darkness broke, filling it with life, with the multiverse. Every existence multiplied by possibility and spread out before space and time in infinite measure. 10,000 years ago, a scientist, Mar Novu, on the planet Maltus, became a time traveler and sought to visit the dawn of time. That's where he found the antithesis of the multiverse, because upon his arrival in the temporal zone, antimatter pulls him into that place, the antimatter universe. There, his doppelganger is formed, a malevolent being who wields the same immeasurable ambition as Mar Novu, not for the thrill of scientific discovery or curiosity, but for evil, to extinguish the multiverse and replace it with his own, an antimatter universe, one that he can control. In 2019, his plans finally come to fruition. He releases antimatter waves, eradicating one universe after another. Mar Novu, who has adopted the moniker The Monitor, recruits heroes from various Earths to defend the multiverse. In order to succeed, he tasks them with finding the 7 paragons of hope, destiny, courage, love, honor, humanity, and the paragon of truth, the Superman of Earth 96. Since learning of a son named Jason and tossing New Krypton into space, the years have been unkind to Superman, because this paragon is said to have suffered a greater loss than most mortal men could endure. On this Earth, they find Superman in an office at the Daily Planet, behind a door labeled Clark Kent, Editor-in-Chief. They find him, and they find those plaques on the wall, the ones he put up to remember Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, and everyone else who was lost that day, the day he gassed the building. It seems Earth 96 has a Gotham, and it has a Joker. It doesn't matter which one, just that he shares the same demented sense of humor as the others. He felt the Daily Planet didn't cover him enough, so he played a practical joke.
My friends, my wife, I lost everyone in one fell swoop.
Superman of Earth 96 tells all this to the Monitor's recruits. Superman and Lois Lane from Earth 38, and Iris West Allen, wife to Barry Allen, a hero known as the Flash from Earth 1. Before they can recruit this Superman's help, a familiar villain crashes the party, Lex Luthor of Earth 38. His familiar face is another example of the strange ways of the multiverse. In one world, you could be Lex Luthor's nephew, Lenny, and in another, you're Lex Luthor himself. Even this Superman of Earth 96 has a doppelganger. In some worlds, he's Ray Palmer, a shrinking hero known as Adam. This Lex Luthor wields a powerful weapon, the Book of Destiny, which allows him to rewrite reality, at least to the extent his imagination allows without breaking his mind. Too big a change would drive anyone to madness, but killing Superman is well within that limit. He's already killed so many on so many other worlds it's gotten boring, so now he's decided it's more fun to make Supermen kill each other. In seconds, he turns the Superman of Earth 96 into a villain, but before he can kill the other Superman, Lois knocks out Luthor, then with Iris's help, uses the Book of Destiny to set Superman right. Finally, they bring Superman to the ship, where the other heroes have gathered. Superman even gets to meet his doppelganger, Adam, and he gets to meet the child of Earth 38's Clark and Lois.
He looks just like my son Jason.
But there is little time for sentimentality. Superman travels the multiverse, saving as many as he can, while watching Earths vanish in the tide of antimatter waves. Between crises, Lois Lane does have a moment to ask him about the black on his family crest, where he's replaced the yellow.
Hey, why'd you add black to it?
Because, Lois, even in the darkest times, hope cuts through. Hope is the light that lifts us out of darkness.
The heroes fight until only one Earth remains, and until none remain, when they are forced to take refuge outside time and space in the Vanishing Point. The Superman of Earth 96 is with them only briefly, until Lex Luthor, having apparently stolen a scrap from the Book of Destiny, rewrites himself as the Paragon of Truth, taking Superman's place. But even he doesn't want to see the multiverse end, so in a tacit alliance, he works with the other heroes. They travel 10,000 years into the past to the planet Maltus. They stop Mar-Novu from conducting his experiment. As a result, he never visits the Dawn of Time, yet at the Dawn of Time, the Anti-Monitor remains. How is that possible? The truth is, they did stop Mar-Novu from conducting his experiment, but he is only one man across countless universes. But within the tapestry of the multiverse, there will always be one Mar-Novu who cannot turn from his towering ambition.
And in that inevitability, there is destiny. Welcome to mine.
But the Seven Paragons are not the only heroes at the Dawn of Time. There's also Oliver Queen. As a mortal, he was the Green Arrow. Now, in death, he is the Spectre, a spirit capable of channeling the entire multiverse. Now, he can restore the multiverse if the Paragons can hold off the shadow demons long enough, and then fan the flames once he's lit the spark. The heroes do hold off those shadow demons. Once the demons are beat, the Paragons notice a light from the Spectre, the spark. Now they fan the flame. Luthor still has that scrap from the Book of Destiny. Normally, using it to restore all those lost Earths, changing reality to such a drastic extent, would be impossible and would snap anyone's mind who tried.
You try to use it on the scale that you're talking about, and it could drive you mad.
But the Seven Paragons, if each focuses on their own specific virtue, hope, destiny, courage, love, honor, humanity, and truth, if they each set their minds and lend their strength, they could use that scrap of paper to fan the Spectre's flame and relight the multiverse. They focus. The light explodes, the Anti-Monitor is gone, and Oliver Queen seemingly dies a second time. But with his dying breath, he tells them to look up. And they do, and they see new universes born, one after another. The multiverse has been reborn, and in its rebirth, some things have changed. Some dark pasts have been rewritten, even on Earth 96, where Superman can now be found with the yellow restored on his crest. In another world, another Krypton is doomed. Another Jor-El and Laura say goodbye to another Kal-El. In this reality, Krypton's damnation was born of a critical mistake by the Council, one that was a long time coming. A long time ago, during an era of expansion, Krypton's race spread throughout the stars, seeking new worlds to settle upon. Thousands of scout ships were launched into the void. Outposts were built on other planets using great machines to reshape environments to their needs. Their civilization flourished for 100,000 years, until the collapse. Artificial population control was established. Children were engineered in Genesis chambers designed to fulfill predetermined roles in society, as a worker, a warrior, a leader, and so on. The outposts on space exploration were abandoned. Krypton exhausted their natural resources, and the core became unstable. Now, as Krypton faces its end, the scientist Jor-El tells the Council that he warned them. Harvesting the core was suicide. Now, their implosion is imminent. Krypton is dead, but Jor-El suggests they can look to the stars as their ancestors did. They can find other habitable worlds using the old outposts, not to save today's Kryptonians, but to form a new civilization, to at least save future generations. Jor-El can plant the seeds if they grant him control of the Codex, which contains the DNA for 1 billion unborn Kryptonians. With Jor-El's help, they can become the heirs of this dying world. The Council won't hear of it. In fact, the only one who agrees with Jor-El is the military leader, General Zod, though his prescription is more violent. He forcibly disbands the Council, and as Jor-El suggested, Zod plans on taking the Codex to begin anew, and then the part where they disagree. Zod will then prune the bloodlines as he sees fit, only allowing the continuation of those he deems worthy. Jor-El refuses to abide by Zod's brutal vision for a new Krypton. Instead, he steals the Codex and transfers it into the blood of his newborn son, Kal-El. He is Krypton's first natural birth in centuries. When Krypton began engineering its children in the Genesis chambers for predetermined futures, Jor-El and Laura felt something precious was lost: the element of choice. Kal-El was meant to embody this belief, and now with the Codex in his blood, he embodies so much more: the entirety of Krypton's future. Before Zod finds out what they've done with the Codex, Jor-El and Laura put their son on a craft and send him to another world across the stars. Earth, a place with a far younger, yellow sun. The boy's cells will drink its radiation. It will strengthen his muscles, skin, and senses. Zod fails to stop the vessel's escape, but he does kill Jor-El. That lands him and his co-conspirators in the Phantom Zone. But first, he promises Laura that he will find her son.
I will find him!
And then, the end Jor-El predicted. Laura quietly wishes for her son to make a better world before hers dies. On Earth, it's a familiar story. Kal-El lands in Smallville. He's adopted by Martha and Jonathan Kent. His powers are kept hidden, something Jonathan takes quite seriously. When Clark saves a busload of children, Jonathan even wonders if it was the right thing to do, because the cost of saving a few lives while exposing Clark to the world is unpredictable. How will civilization react? How will it change when they discover an alien living among them? As Clark Kent grows, he is unaware of his true heritage. All he knows is what Jonathan showed him, the ship he landed in, and a small key he found on that ship. Otherwise, he doesn't know where he came from or why he is here. But he is in search of that why. With all this power, there must be something useful he can do on this world. But Jonathan's fear never leaves him. The world cannot learn about Clark. The disagreement becomes an argument, only interrupted thanks to the tornado. Jonathan quickly guides people to safety, but a dog is left in a car in the path of the storm. Clark could save that dog easily. Jonathan tells him no. He goes himself. He saves the dog, but hurts his leg. Clark could save him easily. Jonathan tells him no. His father died rather than let Clark reveal himself to the world, so it's no wonder Clark spends the next decade and a half hiding, taking odd jobs, while saving people where he can, out of the public eye, until the day comes for him to meet his other father. Clark hears about something strange discovered on Ellesmere Island, a piece of technology surrounded by ice nearly 20,000 years old. As the military gathers there, Clark takes the opportunity at night to easily sneak past them and float through the layers of ice, courtesy of heat vision. Though he doesn't notice he's followed, not by a soldier, but a reporter, Lois Lane of the Daily Planet. She fought for permission to join the army here and happened to catch a glimpse of a man on the ice in her camera. Then the thing she didn't bargain for, a ship protected from intruders by robots. She's wounded and almost killed until the man she followed crumbles that robot in his hands, then cauterizes her bleed with his eyes. After returning her to safety, Clark flies the ancient ship to a hidden place in the Arctic. That is where he meets the shadow of his father, a hologram with Jor-El's memories and consciousness. He tells Kal-El his true name and heritage. He tells him about Krypton's age of expansion, where thousands of scout ships were sent into the void, including this one. He gives him a uniform, red cape, blue suit with the symbol of the House of El on its chest, a symbol that means hope. Jor-El shares with his son his own hope for the wonders he'll accomplish. Kal-El will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They'll race behind him. They will stumble. They will fall.
But in time, they will join you when the sun comes.
Meanwhile, Lois Lane writes a story about meeting an alien. Perry White rejects that story. Of course, it's insane. She might have hallucinated half of it. But she wants the story out, so she leaks it online, then continues her research, tracing stories throughout the years of lives saved by a mysterious, powerful man. She traces those stories all the way back to a farm, home to a woman named Martha Kent. And that's how she once again draws that man's attention. Clark pays her a visit and tells her about the time he watched his father die, because that's how important it was for him to stay hidden. And that's how she changes her mind about taking the story public. She abides by Clark's wishes and drops the story. Unfortunately, the genie is already out of the bottle, in a way greater than either of them realize, because when Krypton was destroyed 33 years ago, General Zod and his co-conspirators were freed from the Phantom Zone. They retrofitted the Phantom projector into a hyperdrive and sought out the old colonial outposts, looking for signs of life but only finding death. They salvaged what they could: armor, weapons, even a world engine. Now, after 33 years, they've detected a distress beacon triggered by Kal-El accessing the ancient scout ship. They come to Earth and discover the perfect foundation for Krypton's resurrection. The world engine can terraform the planet, modifying the atmosphere and topography to match Krypton's, and the Codex will provide the DNA for future generations. But first, they need that Codex. General Zod hijacks the airwaves and sends a message to all of Earth. You are not alone, and you are harboring one of our own. Turn him over in the next 24 hours, or your world will suffer. Word gets out Lois Lane might know where he is, so the FBI picks her up. Then Kal-El, having hidden from the world for decades, decides to put his faith in humanity and turns himself in. And they turn him over to Zod, though Zod insists on taking Lois too, and she agrees to go. Aboard the ship, Kal-El quietly hands Lois the command key from his ship, the one his father gave him. Then he finds out what happens when he's exposed to Kryptonian atmospherics after a lifetime adapting to Earth's ecology. It makes him weak and puts him at Zod's mercy. Interfacing with Kal-El's mind, Zod shows him his plans to terraform Earth, wipe out humanity, and replace them with Kryptonians. While Clark is weakened, Lois sneaks the command key into the ship's interface, handing control over to Jor-El's consciousness. He modifies the atmospheric composition, giving his son back his power. He gives Miss Lane a plan to stop Zod, then helps her escape on a pod. Kal-El catches her and brings her safely to the ground. But Zod is not finished. He needs that Codex, so he threatens Martha Kent. That shows him a new side of Kal. The son of Jor-El unleashes a fury on Zod, Feora, and the others. They are strong like him, but still new to Earth's atmosphere and sun. When Kal-El breaks their breathers, the assault on their senses, X-ray vision, and super hearing is too much. They retreat, providing only temporary reprieve. After the battle, the U.S. military, led by General Calvin Swanwick, decides Superman, that's what they're calling him, is not their enemy. Colonel Hardy saw it firsthand, how he protected them and fought for them. So when Zod begins to execute his ultimate plan, Superman and the army work together, and Lois Lane knows what they have to do. Jor-El told her the ship Superman first arrived in years ago is powered by a phantom drive, which bends space. Zod's ship uses the same technology. If the two ships collide, it will create a black hole that will send Zod and his people back to the Phantom Zone. By now, Zod's scientist has discovered the location of the Codex inside Kal-El, and he has good news. The son of Jor-El does not need to be alive for them to extract it. With that, they release the World Engine over the Indian Ocean, while Zod's ship floats above Metropolis. The military heads to Metropolis, while Superman heads to the ocean to stop the machine. He fights through its defenses and gets under it. Now, destroying the engine should be effortless, except its entire purpose is turning this place into Krypton, where Kal-El has no powers. Through unfamiliar weakness and mortality, Superman fights. The beam from that engine may be the one thing that can kill him. He throws himself through it and lives. The world engine is shut down. Countless lives are saved, but many will be mourned too, because when that engine was turned on, it linked with their ship floating above Metropolis, and in the short time it ran, that thing leveled much of the city. Thousands are dead. Meanwhile, Zod himself has secured the scout ship Kal-El flew to the Arctic. He needs it for its Genesis chamber, where new Kryptonians can be born. By the time Superman returns to Metropolis, he finds Zod is already there, and now has that scout ship's weapons pointed at a jet holding their makeshift phantom bomb, and Lois Lane. Before Zod can fire, Superman destroys the ship.
If you destroy this ship, you destroy Krypton! Krypton had its chance!
Superman catches Lois when she falls off the jet, which Feora has boarded. She slaughters her way toward Colonel Hardy, who proves a man can beat a Kryptonian if he's willing to sacrifice. Before she strikes, he flies into the Kryptonian craft, turning the jet itself into a missile. Aboard the jet is Kal-El's old ship containing a phantom engine, and just as Jor-El promised, when it collides with theirs, a singularity, a blink, and they're all gone. But there is one survivor, one who was on the scout ship during that collision, General Zod, and now his sole purpose, protecting the people of Krypton, has been stolen away. Now he has only one purpose: revenge. He attacks Kal-El, and the ensuing brawl levels even more of Metropolis. But once Superman has Zod beat, he falls on a final tactic. Kal-El has chosen Earthlings over Kryptonians. His morality, caring for these inferior people, that is his weakness. That is how Zod can make him suffer, by making him watch as he cuts a family to pieces with his eyes. Zod's heat vision creeps toward the civilians as the Man of Steel holds him back, until he realizes he can only hold him back for so long. The only way to stop him is by, for a moment, being just like him. With his bare hands, Superman kills. He snaps Zod's neck and saves more innocent lives. With the world saved and the word out on Superman, Clark Kent figures out what's next. He figures it'd be good to have a job where he can keep his ear to the ground and go to dangerous places to ask questions. That's how he ends up a reporter at the Daily Planet. And that's how he ends up on assignment in Gotham City, where he learns about a bat-shaped vigilante who's been terrorizing the criminal element for 2 decades.
There's a new kind of mean in him. He is angry, and he's hunting.
Lately, that vigilante, Batman, has gotten more aggressive, killing with abandon. Even those he spares are often branded with his symbol, which the other prisoners take as a target, and the guards turn their backs as those marked by the bat are executed. The assignment was to report on Gotham's football team, but this, the story of a bat playing judge, jury, and executioner, this is the story Clark would rather cover. But Perry White won't allow it. Crime in Gotham is as much a headline as water is wet. Clark can't understand it, how no one seems to care, and he can't understand why the world is seemingly turning on Superman. It seems to have started recently when Lois Lane was taken hostage on a dangerous assignment in Nairobi. The photographer, Jimmy Olsen, was executed once they found out he was undercover CIA, and Lane only escaped thanks to Superman's intervention. That's all well and good, but a pile of bodies were left in Superman's wake, and the media is blaming him. Now politicians are calling for accountability, though Clark has no idea what's really in store for him. He has no idea why Batman has been raining hell in Gotham. It all started 18 months ago when Batman found out there are gods among us, and when they fight, it's people who suffer, like the building full of Wayne Enterprises employees that was knocked down in Superman's fight with Zod. Bruce Wayne was powerless to save anyone inside. He was powerless to help the little girl in the dust find her mom. Where is she? When Bruce asked, she only pointed at the missing top half of a scorched skyscraper. Bruce Wayne, Batman, was rattled that day, and when Batman gets rattled, it doesn't look the same as it does for other men. For him, it looks like rage unleashed on Gotham's criminal element, and it looks like going to war with a god. That's exactly what he intends to do. All he needs is something that can give him an edge over Superman, and recently, he found it. 3 months ago, LexCorp discovered a radioactive xenomineral at the bottom of the Indian Ocean, something left behind by the World Engine's unfinished work. When they exposed that mineral to General Zod's body, they observed profound biodegradation. In a word, they discovered kryptonite, a rock that kills Kryptonians. Bruce just needs to get his hands on it. To do that, he needs to get into LexCorp's server. Thankfully, the CEO, Lex Luthor, is throwing a gala, and Bruce Wayne is invited, making it that much easier to get close. Clark Kent is there too, and when Bruce sneaks off to start the download from Luthor's servers, Super Hearing invites Clark to listen in on Bruce's comms with Alfred, compromising his secret that he moonlights as Batman. When they have a chance to speak, Clark Kent, as a reporter, has a few questions. How does Bruce feel about a Bat vigilante trampling on civil liberties in Gotham? Bruce's answer: isn't that a bit hypocritical? Every time Metropolis's hero saves a cat out of a tree, the Daily Planet puts out a puff-piece editorial about an alien who, if he wanted to, could burn the whole place down. There wouldn't be a damn thing we could do to stop him. Clark assures that most do not share that opinion.
Maybe it's the Gotham City in me. I have a bad history with freaks dressed like clowns.
Once the download from Luthor's server is finished, Bruce goes to retrieve the drive, but finds a strange woman. Diana Prince has taken it. So another night, he finds her at the museum where she works as a curator, where she assures she was only borrowing the drive. She had to get rid of a picture Luthor has of her, but wasn't able to access it due to military encryption. No match for Wayne. He takes the drive home and initiates decryption. While he waits, he's suddenly treated to a nightmare vision of the future. The world is a desert wasteland. Batman fights an army led by Superman, and he fights flying humanoid creatures. Batman is captured and unmasked by an angry Superman. "She was my world," Superman says, "and you took her from me." Superman plunges a fist into his chest before Bruce wakes in the present, where the Flash reaches out to him through a portal from the future. "It's Lois," he shouts. "It's Lois Lane. She's the key," and adds, "You're right about him. You've always been right about him. Fear him. Fear him. You have to find us." Bruce wakes again. The decryption is complete. It tells him exactly what he needs to know. The rock that kills Kryptonians is aboard a ship on its way to Lex Luthor. That's when Bruce finally admits to Alfred what he's up to. He's going to steal that rock, not to keep it out of Luthor's hands, but to kill Superman. Alfred is shocked. He's going to go to war. Why? Bruce has an answer. Superman killed thousands in Metropolis in his war with Zod. Millions could be next.
If we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
Batman gets to the ship until he's stopped by Superman, who tells him to retire. And Batman only has one question.
Do you bleed? You will.
After that, Batman follows the tracker he left on the kryptonite and retrieves it. Soon, U.S. senators call a hearing to discuss the collateral damage of Superman's actions, primarily all the death he's caused, recently in Nairobi, and before that in Metropolis fighting Zod. Set to speak at the hearing is Wallace Keefe, someone who works for Wayne, who lost his legs on that day in Metropolis. Watching it all on TV, Bruce asks why Wallace Wallace isn't getting their checks, the one Wayne Enterprises should be sending him. But he is getting those checks. He's just been returning them with angry notes scrawled on them about how Wayne let so many die that day. Superman shows up to the hearing just before Wallace's wheelchair explodes. Once again, death seems to follow Superman wherever he goes, further poisoning the public and Bruce Wayne against him. After the explosion, Superman helps who he can before flying off for a moment of soul-searching and solitude. Lois Lane, meanwhile, continues an investigation she began after Nairobi. She traced bullets there to LexCorp, and now she finds out Wallace's wheelchair that concealed the bomb also came from LexCorp, and it was lined with lead to ensure Superman's X-ray vision wouldn't reveal that bomb. It's obvious to her Lex has been framing Superman for all this death. What else is Lex up to? Bruce searches through more of his files from the server. In the folder labeled Metahuman, he finds a strange photo of Diana Prince, showing her in 1918 as though she hasn't aged a day. Meanwhile, Superman finds a vision of his Earth father atop a mountain, Jonathan Kent. He tells his son a story about a flood, how he and his dad grabbed shovels, went at it all night, and saved the farm. His grandma baked him a cake and called him a hero. It was only later that day they realized by blocking the water, they sent it upstream. The whole Lang farm washed away. Jonathan's nightmares of the horses drowning while he ate cake haunted him. Until he met Clark's mother. She gave him faith that there's good in the world. She was his world. As for Bruce, he doesn't have a father to speak with, not even a ghost. But he has Alfred. He tells Alfred how the first generation of Waynes made their fortune, trading with the French, pelts and skins. They were hunters. Tonight, Bruce will honor that legacy by hunting a Superman. Armed with kryptonite and heavy armor, he beams his symbol in the sky and waits. Across the bay in Metropolis, Lex waits too for Lois Lane, kidnapped by one of his henchmen. She's already unraveled most of his plan, but he fills in the rest. How, yes, he framed Superman in Nairobi and planted a bomb in that man's wheelchair, and how he forged notes from that man to Bruce Wayne to further inflame his hatred for Superman and all the destruction he wrought in Metropolis. Now, Lex Luthor has successfully turned them against each other, the son of Krypton versus the Bat of Gotham. All that's left is a little push. He shoves Lois off the building, knowing Superman will come to catch her. He does. And then, the final push. Luthor reveals who else he kidnapped? Martha Kent. His demands are simple. Kill Batman or your mother dies. Superman heads to Gotham, not to kill Batman, but to convince him to help. And he finds Batman is not in the mood for conversation. He doesn't offer words, only powerful sound waves and a barrage of bullets. Neither has much effect, but his synthesized kryptonite gas, that does the trick. Now it's a fair fight. And in a fair fight, Bruce Wayne is unmatched. Only when Superman is beat does Bruce offer some of those words. I bet your parents taught you that you mean something, that you're here for a reason. My parents taught me a different lesson, dying in the gutter for no reason at all.
You taught me the world only makes sense if you force it to.
Bruce holds up his kryptonite spear, ready to plunge it into the heart of the last son of Krypton, until the beaten god pleads, "You're letting him kill Martha." Superman begs for his mother's life, and her name, Martha, forces Bruce to think of his own Martha, his mother, Martha Wayne. "Why did you say that name?" Bruce demands, and Lois Lane arrives just in time to explain. "It's his mother's name," she shouts. Suddenly, Batman sees Superman, not as an alien threat, but as a person. He throws away his kryptonite spear and finally listens to reason. Lois tells them something strange is happening at the Kryptonian ship, something Lex must be behind. Batman tells Superman to head for the ship where he's needed. Batman himself himself will save Martha. Alfred tracks Luthor's enforcers to a warehouse. In minutes, everyone between Batman and Martha is either dead or grievously injured, and decades after watching his Martha die in a gutter, Bruce Wayne saves this one. At the ship, Superman finds Lex already has a backup plan in motion. It's always difficult to decipher the motives of madmen. Lex has spouted about proving Superman is not an infallible god, and about not wanting to live under tyrants. In the end, it seems he wanted Superman and Batman to fight, so Superman would die, perhaps because he knows Superman would be an obstacle in his future devious endeavors. As for that backup plan, pulling strings with politicians, Lex got his hands on the crashed Kryptonian scout ship and Zod's body. Combining that body with Lex Luthor's own blood and dipping both in the ship's Genesis chamber, he's birthed a monster engineered to kill Superman.
Born to destroy you. Your doomsday.
Superman and Doomsday fight, and it's quickly clear Superman is outmatched. He flies the creature to space where the military fires a nuke, but it only feeds the monster, making him more powerful. As for Superman, he's reduced to something indistinguishable from a floating corpse, until the yellow sun revives him. Batman realizes the creature is Kryptonian, he'll need kryptonite to kill it, and his last supply is that spear, so he lures the creature toward Gotham where he left it. But he's quickly knocked out of the sky. Doomsday prepares to kill him, until Batman is saved by the woman from that photograph, Wonder Woman. Superman arrives, and the three of them fight together, while at the site of their earlier battle, Lois Lane finds the spear. She nearly drowns going after it, until Superman saves her, while Batman and Wonder Woman keep Doomsday busy. Clark watches his friends fight the monster, and sees that with its ability to regenerate and grow stronger, the battle is hopeless, unless he does what is necessary. He tells Lois that he loves her, and he echoes Jonathan's words, "You are my world." He grabs the spear and flies to the monster. He gets close enough to stab it, and close enough to be stabbed, and both Kryptonians die. After the funeral, Bruce speaks with Wonder Woman. He tells her that he failed Superman in life, but will not fail him in death. He asks for her help finding others like her, people with powers or special abilities to fight whatever threat looms. And for the first time in years, Bruce is optimistic. He believes they will come together and do better. At the prison, Bruce pays Lex a visit to let him know he's being transferred to Arkham Asylum. As Bruce leaves, Lex warns of a larger threat, one he learned about speaking to a hologram on the scout ship.
He's hungry. He's found us. And he's coming!
Bruce can sense that he's right. Something is coming. He has to move fast, recruiting those metahumans. First, he tries Arthur Curry, also known as the Protector of the Oceans. Bruce travels far to find him, but the Aquaman is uninterested in joining Batman's proposed alliance. Next, Alfred helps to investigate another metahuman. This one moves at incredible speed. Based on facial scans, Alfred identifies the man as Mr. Barry Allen from Central City. Before attempting to recruit him, Bruce receives a visit from Diana Prince, Wonder Woman's human alter ego, and she tells him that the threat no longer looms, but is already here. She tells Bruce a story. An army of invaders once came to Earth, led by a being named Darkseid, a name cursed and feared in every universe. The Earth was defended by the old gods, men, Atlanteans before their descent into the sea, Amazons before their betrayal and enslavement, and guardians from the stars. Historically, these groups never trusted each other, but for the first time, they came together. As Darkseid waged war, he found a secret on Earth, the anti-life equation, which can be used to eradicate free will and rule the multiverse. He called forth mystics, who worshipped and controlled three objects, the Mother Boxes, indestructible living machines. When brought together, they formed the Union, which cleanses a planet with fire, transforming it into a copy of the enemy's world. All who live become servants of Darkseid, in the form of parademons. Earth's defenders fought as one and defeated Darkseid, sending him back to his home planet of Apokolips and stopping the Union from forming. The boxes were left behind on Earth, and the heroes made a pact. Man, the Atlanteans, and the Amazons would each guard one of the boxes. Recently, something woke up the Amazons box and it called out, leading one of Darkseid's conquerors to it. He stole it back and is now hiding on Earth, searching for the other two. Just like in ancient times, Earth's heroes must unite. Bruce and Diana decide that Bruce will work on recruiting Barry Allen, while Diana works on another metahuman, Victor Stone, or Cyborg. In Central City, Bruce meets Barry Allen and throws a batarang, revealing his identity as Batman and testing Barry's abilities, proving he is as fast as they thought. Desperate for friends, Barry agrees to join the team. Diana has less luck, but she thinks Cyborg will come around. When they notice the bat signal, they head off. Batman, Wonder Woman, and the Flash meet with Jim Gordon on the Gotham rooftop. He tells them that several citizens have been kidnapped by strange creatures. Parademons, Wonder Woman points out. They must be here following the scent of a mother box. Cyborg arrives to reveal that his father is among those who have been kidnapped, the head scientist of Star Lab. Looking at all the sightings of the parademons plotted by Gordon, they pinpoint the location of the nest. There, they find Darkseid's conqueror, Steppenwolf. Wonder Woman identifies him. The monster interrogates the kidnapped scientists in search of the mother box. When Steppenwolf threatens Victor's father, the heroes attack, fighting Steppenwolf and his parademons. With their combined abilities, they free the hostages, but Steppenwolf escapes, blowing a hole in the tunnel under Gotham Harbor. The heroes are nearly flooded until Aquaman arrives and stops the onslaught of water. In the aftermath of the battle, Aquaman reveals that Steppenwolf now has 2 of the 3 mother boxes. He took the one from Atlantis. And Cyborg reveals the final box of men, under his protection. He tells its history. The Nazis found it at the end of World War II, buried under an Italian monastery. But the Allies intercepted it and brought it to the US in '44. It collected dust at the Pentagon until Superman arrived, and they noticed similarities between the box and Superman's ship. Both were alien technology. When an accident nearly killed Victor, his father Silas woke up the box and used its power to save his life, turning him into the part-machine monster that he is. The boxes, Victor explains, are change machines that rearrange matter at the will of their masters. And they all have the same thought. The box could bring back their one hope for victory, Superman. Cyborg warns that they don't know much about Kryptonian biology. There's no telling what could happen. And Diana points out that using the box would require activating it, which would give away its location to Steppenwolf. The group is split on what to do, and how do they even know Superman could win the fight? And Bruce points out the mother boxes didn't call out to Darkseid until after Superman died, as though they were afraid of Superman because they knew he could win. This is the only way, Bruce says. There are 6, not 5. There is no us without him. So they exhume Superman's corpse. While Alfred tries to talk Bruce out of it, he believes Bruce feels guilty over his role in Superman's death, and that guilt is overriding reason. Alfred, Bruce says, for once I'm operating strictly on faith, not on reason. With help from Silas Stone, they sneak into Star Lab, where Superman's ship is stored. They place Superman's body in the ship's Genesis chamber, but it's still damaged from Lex Luthor's meddling. Barry offers to run and generate the electricity needed to jumpstart it, while the ship's AI warns them against activating the box. The AI treats Cyborg to a vision of the future. Darkseid destroys the world. Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Lois Lane are killed. Then, Darkseid uses the anti-life equation to turn a grieving Superman evil. Aquaman demands they abort, but Batman insists they continue, and they do. Barry runs. They activate the box, and Superman flies. Confused, he suspiciously eyes the 4 heroes, and Victor's auto-defense system attacks. Superman responds in kind. They fight, and even with the four of them united, victory seems assured for Superman, until Lois Lane arrives. He seems to recognize her, then grabs her and flies off. Then, having heard the call of the now activated Mother Box, Steppenwolf arrives, but the box isn't there. Silas Stone has brought it back to Star Lab. Steppenwolf finds him, and with no time to escape, Stone locks himself in the chamber with the box. He activates a machine, and it fires a laser into the box. Victor arrives just in time to watch his father die. Steppenwolf grabs the final box and leaves. The team joins Victor in the lab just as he has a realization. His father was not trying to destroy the box, he was trying to superheat it so they could track it on a thermal imaging system and find Steppenwolf's base. Though, Barry points out, that will mean fighting someone who fought hundreds of thousands of other super beings on the other planets he's destroyed. I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells, Batman replies. He's never fought us, not us united. On their way, they review the plan. Destroy the defense dome so Cyborg can get to and link with the Union. Then, Barry runs faster than he's ever run before and generates enough energy to help Cyborg break through the Union's defenses. They arrive at the base and take down the dome. Then, as a team, they fight through the parademons. In Gotham, after remembering who he is with Lois Lane's help, Superman visits Alfred to get caught up on the situation. At the base, the heroes reach Steppenwolf himself. Aquaman and Wonder Woman keep him busy, while Victor reaches the Union. Before Victor can link with the box, Steppenwolf frees himself and approaches Cyborg, until Superman steps in his path and turns the tide of the battle in their favor. But Barry is wounded while he runs to generate the charge, and they are too late. A portal opens to reveal Darkseid. Then Barry runs again and breaks the rules. Using the Speed Force, he reverses the flow of time to generate the charge and make contact with Victor before it's too late. Inside the Union, Cyborg fights off the box's psychological manipulation. Then, with Superman's help, disconnects the boxes. Aquaman plunges his trident into Steppenwolf's chest, and Wonder Woman beheads the monster, sending his corpse flying through the portal to Darkseid. The heroes stare at the Lord of Apocalypse, and he stares back as the portal closes. Darkseid is disappointed. Steppenwolf failed to take over Earth and failed to retrieve the anti-life equation. But Darkseid prepares to ready his armada and return to Earth himself. The equation will be his. On Earth, the heroes help each other up and smile at their victory. Later, Bruce, Diana, and Alfred make plans for a Hall of Justice, where they and other heroes will gather in the future to fight whatever evil comes next. Clark returns to the Kent farm with a pregnant Lois Lane, and he thanks Bruce.
Thank you is not enough what you did. I did a mistake, that's all.
After that, Clark returns to work at the Daily Planet, and Superman returns to work saving the day when needed. At Arkham Asylum, a guard discovers that Lex Luthor has escaped. Lex meets with Mr. Wilson, also known as Deathstroke, a villain who seeks to kill the Batman. Lex decides to help him out by offering the hero's identity, Bruce Wayne. In the nightmare future of a destroyed Earth, where Superman has fallen to the anti-life equation, Batman, Cyborg, Flash, Mira, and Deathstroke make their way through the wasteland. They run into the Joker, who taunts Batman, reminding him of his adopted son, the one Joker murdered. Batman gets angry, but Joker warns, "You need me. You need me to help you undo this world you created by letting her die." Poor Lois. Then Batman taunts Joker, telling him about Harley Quinn's last words, begging him to ensure Joker's death is a slow one. "I'm gonna honor that promise," Batman says. But for now, they accept a truce. Then Superman finds them, and the heroes prepare to fight. Bruce wakes in the present and finds a visitor outside, an alien known as the Martian Manhunter, a shape-shifting alien who has lived among humans by taking the form of one and calling himself Calvin Swanwick, meaning when Superman faced the Secretary of Defense, he had no idea he was facing a fellow extraterrestrial. I'm sure you know Darkseid is not finished with Earth. the alien says. The anti-life equation is here somewhere. We have to find it before he does. There's a war coming, and I'm here to help. He goes on, saying he never thought he'd see Earth's defenders united again. But he did, thanks to Bruce. Your mother and father would be proud, he adds. Bruce responds, I hope so. With the world saved for now, Superman continues his adventures and continues to meet other metahumans, like Shazam, the boy chosen by an ancient wizard to inherit his magic, or Black Adam, a man with the powers of ancient gods. He also reunites with a portion of the Justice League at least once to help in a battle against aliens known as butterflies, but they show up too late after Peacemaker and his team have already handled things.
You're late, you fucking dickheads!
As time passes, Batman continues to fight for Gotham. One day, Falcone's idiot kid decides to try to play in the big leagues. He puts a crew together and steals a highly deadly virus from Gotham Central. Batman goes after them, while Alfred calls in Barry Allen, aka The Flash, to protect civilians at the collapsing hospital, including a shower of babies, or a baby shower. The deadly virus nearly falls into Gotham's water supply until Wonder Woman comes to the rescue. Afterward, Barry Allen returns to the Central City Research Center, where he works as a forensic investigator, a job he takes personally because it may be the only way to save his father. Years earlier, Henry Allen was wrongfully convicted for killing his wife, Nora, Barry's mother. His parole hearing is tomorrow, and the papers are interested, so journalist Iris West pays Barry a visit. They knew each other in college, where Barry harbored something of a crush. He got close to her once, saving her as the Flash, but this is the first time they've actually spoken. And things are complicated. She asks about his dad, but is she asking as a journalist or a friend? The lines are blurred. Back home, Barry receives an envelope from Bruce Wayne, containing security footage enhanced by Wayne Enterprises tech, footage of Henry Allen shopping for a can of tomatoes while his wife was murdered. The footage would provide an alibi and exonerate him, if he had only looked up at the camera. As things stand, he didn't show his face, so there's no way to know for sure the man in the footage is him. Barry is disappointed, while his father seems at peace, only encouraging Barry to forget about him and live his life. But Barry has never been good at letting go. He visits his childhood home and remembers finding his mother in the kitchen with a knife in her chest. The painful memory drives him into a running frenzy. He runs fast, fast enough to enter a strange place between time and space. A chrono bowl, where he can reach out and touch the past. Maybe he could go back in time and save his mother, but Bruce warns against it. Even the smallest change in the past could have disastrous and unpredictable outcomes. We aren't meant to go back and prevent the tragedies that shaped us. These scars we have, Bruce says, make us who we are. After that, Iris visits to apologize for her insensitivity, but Barry's mind is still on the past. What if he could change things with minimal interaction? Whoever broke into the house probably thought it was empty since the car was gone, but if his mom just hadn't forgotten to buy that can of tomatoes, his dad wouldn't have had to leave the house to buy one. Barry runs to the past and covertly puts a can of tomatoes in his mother's shopping cart, then runs back toward the present. But along the way, he's stopped by a monstrous creature who knocks him off the path, landing him in 2013, a few years early before the present. Nonetheless, it worked. Nora is alive. Barry enjoys the reunion until he notices a complicating factor. He isn't the only Barry around. There's also his 18-year-old self. To avoid anyone discovering two Barrys, he grabs his past self and explains what's going on. Then he has two startling realizations. One, he is incredibly annoying. 2. Today is the day Barry is supposed to get his powers, but in this alternate reality where he wasn't motivated by his mother's death and father's incarceration, Barry doesn't intern at the Central City Crime Lab, which means he won't get struck by lightning and doused in chemicals, he won't get his powers, and this world won't have a Flash. Barry rushes his past self to the lab and tries to recreate the exact circumstances which gave him his powers. But it's not an exact science. They're both hit by lightning. Past Barry is granted powers, but present Barry loses his, leaving him with no choice but to train his past self, and hope that he can somehow return him to the present, and hope that reality is undamaged by his meddling. But there are suddenly more pressing matters. Today is the day that humanity learns they aren't alone in the universe. General Zod of the planet Krypton makes a public demand. There is another Kryptonian on Earth, and Zod demands that humanity hand him over. Barry knows the rest. The Kryptonian turns out to be Superman, and Zod doesn't just want him, but will also attempt to terraform Earth as a new home for Kryptonians. In his reality, Barry tried to help, but only managed to save one child, while many others died before Superman saved the day. It's all about to happen again, but maybe this time, Barry can make sure it happens differently. Maybe he can gather the Justice League now to stop it all before it happens. But he quickly learns, in this world, Victor Stone isn't Cyborg yet, no one's heard of Wonder Woman, and Aquaman was never born. Barry has somehow destroyed the timeline, creating a world without metahumans, and leaving humanity defenseless before Zod. Except, not all heroes are metahuman. Some are just people who have decided to fight for good. One of them lives in Gotham City. His name is Bruce Wayne. Most know him as Batman. The two Barrys visit Wayne Manor and find an older Bruce, one who fought a Joker and a Penguin years earlier. How could this be? Why would Batman be older? That would mean that Barry's actions not only change the future, but somehow also the past, making Bruce Wayne born earlier. Bruce quickly understands it. Time isn't linear. Changing the past doesn't just branch you off into another reality from that point forward. It puts you on another strand of reality entirely, with a different past, present, and future. It sends you on a trip through the multiverse. Future Barry begs Bruce to help them find this world's Superman, but Bruce passes. After years of crime fighting, Gotham has become one of the safest cities in the world. He is retired. Instead, Barry and Barry head to the Batcave and begin the search themselves. Future Barry makes slow progress and tells Bruce about something on his mind. Bruce mentioned something during his explanation on time travel, how different strands of the multiverse will inevitably intersect. Barry sees that this is true. His Bruce has an Alfred, and this Bruce had one. How do you explain these repeating people and events, other than through fate? Sorry about your parents, Barry says. I'm just trying to save mine. The reminder of the event which forged him wakes up the Bat. And he locates Superman. The Kryptonian is being held by a mercenary group in a Siberian black site. No match for Batman. They fly over on the Batwing, he disables the guards, and inside the heavily fortified cell, they find someone else. It's not who they're looking for, but Barry rescues her regardless. And once they get to the roof, she soaks up the power of the sun. She proves her Kryptonian origins by easily dispatching the mercenaries. They bring her to Wayne Manor, where she tells her story. Her name is Kara, and she is Kal-El's cousin, Superman's cousin. When Krypton was destroyed, Kal-El was only an infant. She was sent to protect him, but in this reality, it seems his pod never made it to Earth. Hers did, and for that, she was captured and stuffed in a cage. Her impression of humanity is bleak, and she has little interest in saving them. So, she leaves. With the hopes of a Kryptonian savior gone, Barry gets desperate. Maybe they can recreate the circumstances that gave him his powers a second time. Maybe lightning can strike twice and restore his powers, giving them a fighting chance against Zod. Lightning strikes the bat kite, drawing its power into Barry, but all it does is hurt. The experiment is a failure. Until Kara returns. She went to see Zod and saw him slaughter people who fought back despite the odds against them. She thought of Barry, who saved her even though she wasn't Kal-El. So she came back to return the favor. Kara flies him to the stormy skies above, and this time he takes the bolt of lightning directly, and this time he wakes up with his powers restored. So, two Flashes, a Batman, and a Kryptonian head to battle. They attack General Zod head-on while the terraforming begins. And in the midst of battle, Zod fills Kara in on his plan. Before Krypton was destroyed, Jor-El hid the key to Krypton's rebirth in a Kryptonian child, all the genetic material needed to start again. They intercepted Kal-El's pod, but didn't find it. The key is in her blood. And what happened to Kal-El? Zod's answer sends Kara into a rage. The infant did not survive. But rage only gets her so far. While she's distracted trying to save the planet, Zod stabs a hidden blade through her and extracts the genetic material. And Batman fares no better. His ship is damaged and the eject function fails, so he goes out in a fiery blaze, taking as many with him as he can. Present Barry watches Kara die and thinks of his future self. Time travel is the answer. He'll just go fast enough to reach the Chrono Bowl and try again. Future Barry follows him into the past, and armed with the knowledge of what will happen, they fail again. The Bat and Kryptonian die a second time. Again, the younger Barry insists, while the older Barry already sees that it's futile. He follows his younger self into the Chrono Bowl and watches while he fails again and again to alter the outcome of the battle. But there is no changing it. This is an inevitable intersection. This is fate. The younger Barry doesn't want to hear it. He refuses to hear it, despite the damage his repeated trips through time are causing the multiverse. Desperation turns to rage when he learns what the older Barry intends to do next: fix the timeline by letting their mother die. Over the years, over many years, that rage turns this other Flash into a monster, the one who first pushed Barry off the path to ensure his own creation. He visits from the future to recruit his younger self's help in finally finishing the job. But his rage and obsession have pushed the multiverse to the brink of destruction, sending universes on a collision course with each other. The heroes from these other worlds can only watch as space-time rips open in front of them, one in black and white, another in color, one who actually has some time travel experience, though when he saved Lois Lane, it went a lot smoother than Barry Allen's exploits. And this Superman is joined by his cousin, Supergirl. In another world, there's a Superman who looks conspicuously like Nicolas Cage and kills a giant spider. As universes collapse and collide, the time-worn Barry looks at the one who first traveled through time and tells him, "No matter how close I get to winning this fight, you go back and let Mom die. You're the inevitable intersection, and you do have to let go." He attacks, but his younger self steps in the way, sacrificing himself. And of course, with his younger self dead, the older, rageful Barry dies too. The colliding universes are restored. Barry visits the past once more. He watches his prior self drop a can of tomatoes in his mother's cart. Before removing it, Barry talks to her one last time. Though he is a stranger to her, Nora sees his pain and offers a hug. He accepts it before leaving with that can of tomatoes, condemning her to die. But before returning to the present, he notices the security camera and can't help but make one small adjustment to the timeline. He moves the tomato cans to the top shelf, creating a new timeline where Henry Allen looks up to grab them. Barry returns to the present. The footage is presented in court, and now that it shows his face, Barry's father is exonerated. Outside the courthouse, Barry's victory lap continues when Iris suggests he ask her out to dinner. He does, and she says yes. Finally, he prepares for another reunion with Bruce Wayne. Except it's not his Bruce. It's the one who fought in Iceman and a Plant Woman. It seems Barry has found himself in yet another timeline. Though Barry finds some comfort that this timeline's Aquaman looks just like his. Apparently, across timelines, even though Batman might be different from one to the other, all the Aquamen are the same. And like the Aquaman of Barry's world, this one loves to drink. As for Superman, his fate and, well, the state of the world after the Flash's meddling is uncertain and unclear. But there are other worlds to visit with other Supermen, like that one in black and white. His origins are much the same. Jor-El and Laura, Krypton destroyed, a baby on a craft, discovered on a farm by Eben and Sarah Kent. Huh? Okay, some minor differences, but close enough. This is the story of one of this Superman's greatest adventures, the time he met the Mole Man. It all starts when Clark Kent and Lois Lane, a newspaper man and woman of the Daily Planet, pay a visit to Silsby. The modest town is home to the world's deepest oil well, but the reporters arrive to some bad news. They're shutting down the well. Why? Kent would love to know. Maybe there's even a story there. He overhears the manager, Bill Corrigan. He sent a report to the Home Office, and the next day, orders came through to shut down. What was in that report? Well, that's company business. Confidential. And how far did they get before they stopped drilling? 32,740 feet.
32,000? That's more than 6 miles down.
Good heavens, practically to the center of the earth.
That night, Clark decides to head back to the well, see if he can figure anything out, and Lois joins him. At the well, they find more than they bargained for.
Great Scott!
The Watchman, dead. While Clark heads outside, Lois gets an idea what killed the Watchman when she spots them in the window. 2 horrifying creatures, the body of moles and great big human heads. They stare at her through the window and scamper away at her screams. According to the doc, a heart attack killed that man. Clark gets the idea he was frightened to death at the shock of seeing the same creatures Lois saw. When the place clears out and it's just Clark and Corrigan left behind, time for Corrigan to spill the beans. What was in that report? The one that got the well shut down. Well, they've been digging for months, and Corrigan has been taking samples of the stuff they've been boring through. And something strange. The stuff glows in the dark. It might be radioactive. Even stranger, when they got deep enough in the ground, 32,600 feet, the drill broke through to nothing, as though they'd gone through the last solid layer of the Earth.
You mean the center of the Earth is hollow? Is there any other explanation?
Corrigan scraped a sample off the head of the drill and found something microscopic but alive. Perhaps there are other forms of life down there, maybe an entire civilization. And maybe now that they've dug a hole straight down to their home, a couple of them have come to the surface. These creatures, these mole men, stumble around town exploring the new world, and everything they touch is left with a glow like that dirt. Perhaps radioactive, meaning their very presence is a danger. They visit a little girl in her room. She teaches them to play catch. When the girl's mother sees them, she's frightened half to death. And that is the real danger. Fear. Before long, there's an angry mob in town led by Luke Benson and his dogs. Kent tries to reason with them.
They look strange to us, it's true. We must look just as strange to them. But as far as we know, they don't mean us any harm.
So far, anyone who's gotten hurt, heart attack, or falling down has been because they were frightened, not because of any direct action by the creatures. But angry mobs are not known for listening to reason. When they hear that mother scream, they head in her direction. And as always, the cowardly Clark Kent runs off.
I hope you realize what a fool you've made of yourself.
He always does that.
gets himself in a jam, and then runs away.
The truth is that Clark left because this is a job for Superman. He flies off and beats the mob to the house. He assures them the girl is okay. Benson attacks until he finds out he's dealing with a Man of Steel. But he's only been slowed down, and now Benson's dogs have the scent of those creatures. With the help of those dogs, Benson's men corner the mole men on the dam. Before they can shoot, Superman is there with a warning.
You're not going to shoot those little creatures. In the first place, they haven't done you any harm. In the second place, they may be radioactive. If they fall in the reservoir, they may contaminate the water supply.
At that, Superman absorbs a barrage of Benson's bullets. But in the ensuing struggle, Benson's men put a bullet in one of the creatures. Superman catches him before he falls into the water and brings him to a hospital. The other escapes on foot to a shed, which Benson promptly burns like tinder. The creature digs his way out to safety and heads back down into the hollow earth for reinforcements. Thinking the creature dead, Benson rounds up his mob and next heads for the hospital to finish the job. There, despite the hospital manager's refusal to treat the monstrosity, Dr. Reed, with Clark Kent's encouragement and hands-on assistance, defies orders and helps the defenseless mole man. And that makes Kent proud.
There goes a young man with courage.
Well, I wish I could say the same for you.
Meanwhile, Benson's mob gathers. The sheriff tries to arrest them, and that goes not very well.
You're under arrest, Benson.
When the mob arrives at the hospital, Superman is there to meet him.
Now I'm going to give you one last chance to stop acting like Nazi stormtroopers.
He reminds them that they were the ones who invaded his world, and when the creature climbed up, they shot him, set dogs on him. While Superman protects the hospital, the other creature returns to the surface with reinforcements. A couple more mole men with a laser gun. They turn it on Benson until Superman steps in the laser's path, saving the man's life. More than he deserves. Then he brokers peace with the creatures, through hand motions and by returning to them their wounded friend. Once the creatures are back underground, the mole men blow up the hole and seal themselves off from the world above. Oh, and all that radioactive stuff they left behind. Turns out it was just harmless phosphorus. Nothing to worry about. The end. Wow, that was a lot of Superman, and there's more on the way.
Hey, buddy! Eyes up here.
Stay tuned for more coverage as James Gunn's Superman arrives and the DCU grows from there. With that, thank you for watching and see you on the next One Take.